This is a field of tomatoes. Personally, I find tomatoes absolutely disgusting. They're bitter little bombs that explode in your mouth and just instant gag reflex for me. But they have a lot of great uses, such as ketchup, salsa, tomato paste, pasta sauce, you name it. Tomatoes are good once they've been cooked down and rendered into something completely different. But you still got to get the tomatoes from the field to your plate. How do we do that? Let's check out a couple different ways of harvesting tomatoes. Harvesting these tomatoes is a pretty simple process. They're essentially scooped off the ground whole by a large conveyor belt on one of the harvesters out here, and then processed so that the leaves and stems are removed, and the tomatoes are wholesale deposited into sets of doubles that are taken to a processing facility to be turned into tomato paste, which is a shelf-stable form of the tomato that can be used for all sorts of different types of foods.
Tomatoes require a lot of water and are very susceptible to disease, which is why they grow so well on buried drip tube that puts the water right where the roots need it and prevents any moisture from really getting to the top that could promote fungus or bacterial infections. Buried drip tube is quickly becoming an industry standard for irrigation practices. A, because it helps cut down on these diseases, and B, because it's so efficient with the water. By putting it underneath the ground, the water doesn't evaporate out into the air either, and the roots are able to take up that water immediately. The total yield from these fields obviously varies greatly from variety to variety of tomatoes, but farmers usually get between 30 to 70 tons of tomatoes per acre, with the average being right around 40 tons per acre.
Tomatoes can be crushed fairly easily, and when you're going for paste, that's the last thing you want. So they have to use very specialized pieces of machinery in order to take care of all of this. These machines, the harvesters, can only take one row of tomatoes at a time. You compare that to something like rice harvest, where we're using 30-foot or so headers to harvest large swaths of rice at once. It goes pretty slow, but that's just the nature of the beast. Gotta be slow and methodical sometimes. Now, not all tomatoes are harvested for paste. Obviously, there's some tomatoes that are hand-picked in order to go straight to the market, and then there's other tomatoes that are harvested for their seed. You might have seen me wear this shirt a fair amount. True Leaf and Seeds by Design. They grow a lot of different seeds. By that I mean the garden seeds that you plant in your garden at home. You go to the supermarket and you see some packets of seeds to go take out and plant in your garden, there's a good chance it came from True Leaf or Seeds by Design. True Leaf is based in Utah and Seeds by Design is based in California, and they work together in business partners. A couple of the guys from True Leaf were kind enough to donate me some footage of their tomato harvest where they are growing the tomatoes for seed. So let's go check out that footage now and see how different the harvesting process from gathering up tomatoes for making paste versus gathering tomatoes to harvest their seed is.
Harvesting tomatoes for seed follows much of the same process as harvesting them for paste, albeit with one or two more steps in the whole process. A single row harvester drives along and scoops up the tomatoes in the exact same way, processing the tomatoes in order to remove sticks and stones and all of the vegetative material, and instead of dumping it into a waiting set of doubles, it dumps it into a hopper that then separates the fruit matter from the tomato seed itself. This is a much more hands-on and labor-intensive process. Crews need to be continuously monitoring to make sure that the spinning screens are separating the fruit matter from the seeds and ensuring that the bucket of very valuable tomato seed never spills or overflows. As you can imagine and see from this video, this is a very dirty and very messy process. When you're dealing with exploding tomatoes that are then being left in the field, there's really no way to keep clean. Unlike harvesting tomatoes for paste, the tomatoes used for seed need to be very specific. They need to be completely ripe tomatoes where the seeds have been fully prepared for germination, so that way they need to be sorted quite a bit more. Not only does this machine harvest the tomatoes by picking them off the ground, It assorts them according to color to make sure that all the tomatoes going into the hopper are ripe and ready for harvesting the seed. These harvesters may look like any other old tractor that's all diesel and hydraulic fluid, but in reality, they're huge technological marvels capable of processing all of these tomatoes at once while also sorting them using photoelectric eyes. Not only are the tomatoes sorted by these photoelectric eyes that remove all of the debris and unripe tomatoes, the tomatoes are then hand sorted by workers. In this slow motion footage, you can see some of the photoelectric eyes at work. They look for the tomatoes and then bounce them back in, giving them a nice hard smack that also breaks the skin of the tomatoes, making it easier for the seeds to then be extracted, while all of the gravel and rocks and dirt and sticks and other debris are allowed to fall back out right down onto the ground. And here's how fast this all works in real time. Absolutely incredible. The tomatoes then go through another photoelectric eye sensor that works opposite of the last one they just went through. This one allows the red ripe tomatoes to fall right through and takes a bat to any of the other green tomatoes or rocks or anything else that made it through the first sorting process and kicks them back out. And here it is in real time. Once the tomatoes have passed through this mammoth of conveyor belts and photoelectric eyes, they're then deposited into a hopper that goes into the strainer. This machine has different sized filters in it that allows the seeds to fall through while all of the fruit falls out. And then all of that seed and the fruit matter that came with it is collected into buckets. The seed is then rinsed in order to get all of the pulp out and left in water overnight in order to ferment and create better germination results. Once the seed has been thoroughly rinsed, all the water needs to be extracted from it. This leaves everyone with a bucket of clean seed that is then spread out in order to dry. The dry seed makes it very shelf stable so that it can then be packaged and sent off to you. So as you can see, growing tomatoes and harvesting tomatoes, whether it's for paste or seed, is quite the endeavor. So the next time you break out that bottle of ketchup for your fries, or pick up a bag of seeds to plant in the garden, think of how much work goes into it.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Northwind Aerial. Just a quick, nice little video about where both the food you can eat and the food that you can grow yourself comes from. I'm going to get out of this tomato field now. Have I mentioned I don't like tomatoes? If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, comment on what else you would like to see, how it gets from the field to your table. I'd be happy to go out and make a video on it. And if you really thoroughly enjoyed this, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel a lot, and it's completely free. And you get to see my face every smiling Sunday. And you get to see my smiling face every Sunday. Thank you so much for watching Northwind Aerial. I'll see you next time.